So far we've been talking a lot about social and academic mindsets, and I want to pause and make sure that this is not the point that you're getting. So I don't want you to think that having a social and academic mindset will lead to higher achievement. That if you just have to think positive, or we need extra trophies, musical chairs with an extra chair, The Secret where you just think positive thoughts and positive things happen. That's not really the case. And so I just want to pause and emphasize that what the research says and what we see in our classrooms is that social and academic mindsets open us up to engage in the everyday behaviors that are necessary to learn in class and achieve in that class. So when we learn that material, we're able to perform better on formative assessments. And luckily, what we see also is that higher achievement feeds back into these new mindsets that we've developed. So the fact that I'm doing well and learning more supports my belief that I can learn, that I can belong, and that this has value. And so now I want to dig into a little bit of the everyday behaviors that we think are really important for success in the pathways and other courses. And these skills, habits, and know-how include things like emotional regulation. We actually have a new activity at the end of Module 1 in Quantway called Stress Reappraisal. And in this activity, students learn about the physiological correlates of stress, and that if you're experiencing these, like sweaty palms, a heart racing, it doesn't mean that you're going to fail. In fact, these signs are often signs that your body's getting ready for a challenge. And so we walk them through in this helpful, very smiley test-taking girl's diagram. I think she's too happy. I've said it again. If we can make her less happy next time, I will. Anyway, we see here that stress releases chemicals like adrenaline. And what this article does is it explains that these chemicals help you think more quickly and solve problems faster. And the reason that your heart rate increases is so it can deliver fuel to your brain to help you think. So your heart sends oxygen to fuel your brain. And all this is helping students reappraise those physiological signs as more positive as getting ready for a challenge. And before we included this in the Quantway curriculum, we did a randomized trial, and we also did some additional tests to get support materials. But in our randomized trial, we compared it to a control condition. And in this control condition, students were randomly assigned to read an article that said, you should just ignore the stress, don't worry about it, just focus on the exam. So it is very common advice. Baseline, just to make sure that these groups weren't different, so this was before they read anything, we see that baseline there is no significant difference between these randomly assigned groups, those who are assigned the control condition and those who are assigned to read the stress reappraisal activity. However, in exam 2, this is immediately following the activity, so they actually do the activity for the first 30 minutes of the class, and then the second half they do this activity. We saw a significant difference between the stress reappraisal condition and the control condition, such that those who learned that the physiological signs of stress could be a sign that they're getting ready to face a challenge did significantly better on the exam than those in the control condition. Now, those of you who have tried out this activity know that we don't teach them math in it at all. And so this difference isn't because we've suddenly taught them a lot of new math. What it is, it's silencing that inner voice telling them that I can't do it, I'm going to fail, oh, I'm sweating because I can't cut it. It's actually quieting that down so that they can focus on the task at hand. And so again, at the end of Module 1, look for this new activity. You don't have to complete it on exam day if you don't have enough time. We also find in our many tests across the network that it works just as well on a review day. So it does not have to be on the day of the exam. So in addition to self-regulation strategies and emotional regulation strategies, I want to talk a little bit about typical study strategies that our students use. Now, many of our students may study long hours and they may try very hard but continue to fail because they're using ineffective study strategies. I've had students say, I don't know why I failed. I studied all weekend. And our first question, my question, and yours probably too, is, well, tell me what you did. And oftentimes they're engaging in these shallow learning strategies that are really satisfying but ineffective. And these include really common things like rereading your notes or highlighting. Now, highlighting, I'm just going to go off on a bit here, but highlighting is actually a really bad study strategy if you don't use it the right way. It's not that highlighters themselves are bad. You don't need to go throw out yellow markers. They're still good, but you have to use them the right way. So if you highlight on your first read of a text, you're often highlighting things that aren't really the key salient points because you haven't done enough synthesis. You haven't read through the text, you haven't made meaning of it yet to go back and highlight what's really important. You might highlight just vocab words, occasional sentences where you can be like me, where I'll highlight everything and suddenly my whole book is yellow. What's really great is if you combine these two shallow learning strategies into a deeper learning strategy. So if you read the text, then reread it and highlight it when you reread it, you're now synthesizing it, making sense of it, and trying to get the overarching themes. And this is what we call a deeper learning strategy. So it involves thinking about your thinking and being purposeful about your studying. It often involves identifying gaps and identifying ways that you can study to fill those gaps. And this is incorporated into the homework in Quantway and Statway, more so in Quantway than Statway, to be honest. We have our students go through a self-regulated learning cycle in which they gather information about the task at hand. So again, it's not just I'm going to learn everything in Module 1, but what key skills am I trying to work on? And then they set some goals and they start planning. We actually have them rate their confidence on each of the skills, and if they're below a certain point, we suggest where they can go back and study and learn some more. And then they enact the study strategy. Sometimes we can focus too much on goal setting and information gathering and forget to take the test or forget to try the exam or forget to try the quiz or the homework. After enacting it, we have a blank space at the end of the homework where they can reflect on their study strategy, consider whether they could adapt any questions they have. And so this is a deeper learning study strategy. And we see that students who engage in deeper study strategies actually do better in the pathways. So here are some analyses done by SRI with 1,000 students, and we see two very ineffective study strategies that we're working to combat. The first is a bare minimum self-testing study strategy, where when we see students frequently log in and only do what's required, so the checkpoints, and not try anything else, not read anything, not try any of the extra quizzes, extra problem sets, we see that students who do this bare minimum self-testing study strategy ultimately have lower success in the pathways than those who go above and beyond. And this is controlling for baseline math knowledge. So even if our students enter in with low baseline math knowledge, if they engage with all the materials and try more than what's required, they do better in the pathways. We also see a really ineffective study strategy is the give up after failure study strategy. So if they fail and immediately log off and don't try again, even though they're allowed to try again, but they don't, we see that is also related to lower success in the pathways, even controlling for lower math knowledge. So again, if students enter in with low math conceptual knowledge, they can still succeed in the pathways if they persist and try to learn from their mistakes. We've been working to help promote students' online student engagement, and we've learned a lot recently from a planned experiment at LaGuardia Community College. I'll let Ann and Chris answer a lot of questions about that because I see I'm running a little short on time. But what they found is that faculty who were randomly assigned to have students have a reflective work block, so not only time in the computer lab to access the online homework, but actually time to work with one another, reflect on their learning, and engage in this metacognitive thinking, we saw a big impact on the number of assignments turned in on time in modules 1 and 2. So again, this was all randomly assigned. For faculty who had no work block condition, only 65.5% of their students turned in things on time. For faculty who had that work block, that 30-minute reflective work block, we saw 90.7% of their students turning in their materials online. And so this is one way we can help students engage in those everyday behaviors by reducing barriers to access to materials online, but also promoting this reflective activity and peer-to-peer interaction. And so productive persistence, I've talked a lot about the top 4 drivers, that we want students to believe that they're capable of learning, that students feel socially tied to peers, faculty, and the course, that students believe that the course has value, and that students have skills, habits, and know-how to succeed in the college setting. But I also want to emphasize the importance of the bottom one, that faculty and colleges support student skills and mindsets. And I think that's a really great thing about the Pathways Network, is that we can reach out to one another and support one another as we learn to support our students. And you can join us if you want to work specifically on productive persistence. We have a group called Staying Strong, so Mary Crawford, Mohan, and Heather are there from Onondaga, and they tell you all about it, in which we support one another to learn about our students' mindsets and strategies and to try new activities in our class. But there are many other opportunities in our network, and I invite you to take advantage of them, to talk with other faculty and learn from one another, because we can accomplish more together than even the best of us can do alone. So thank you so much for having me again. I'm sorry I couldn't be there. I apologize for my raspy voice, and if you ever want to reach out to me, please do. I look forward to hearing from you. So thank you again, and have a wonderful forum.